22nd, 2023, Officer Timothy Leonard of the Metropolitan Nashville Police Department was patrolling.
A quiet night in Nashville turns tense as Officer Timothy Leonard spots an unfamiliar vehicle parked inside a private business lot around 1 a.m. Curiosity quickly turns into confrontation when he approaches the driver, Reba. Instead of cooperation, he is immediately met with silence and refusal. Reba calmly asserts her right not to answer any questions, setting the stage for a high-tension standoff. What begins as a routine patrol is about to escalate into a full legal and constitutional clash between police authority and individual rights.
Hello, ma'am.
Hello.
I'm Officer Leonard Metro. We're just wondering what you were doing here.
I don't answer questions.
Okay, why not?
I have a right not to.
Okay, well look, you do. Let me explain a few things, okay? I'm a police officer.
All right.
Okay. This is my area. This is my zone. I'm here all the time.
Yeah,
okay?
Hermitage.
Yes. And I'm here in this particular parking lot quite often, and I just don't usually see a Jeep here. And I was just wondering what you're doing, because it's weird to me there's a Jeep here that's usually not here. That's why I'm making contact with you.
I'm not.
If you're not doing anything wrong, we got nothing to worry about.
I'm not obligated to help you with your investigation.
You are obligated to talk to me as a police officer. Okay? I have the right to ask you simple questions.
Yes,
such as,
you do.
What are you doing here?
I have a right to refuse to answer them.
Okay.
Thank you.
Then I have a right to ask for your ID.
For what reason?
Because you're refusing to cooperate with me.
So you want to...
The officer begins pressing harder, demanding answers about why Reba is in the parking lot. But she remains firm, refusing to engage beyond what she is legally required to do. The situation escalates as Officer Leonard shifts from questioning to demanding identification, claiming she is obligated to cooperate. Reba pushes back, stating she is not required to assist in any investigation. Tension rises as both sides stand their ground, and what started as a simple encounter is now turning into a direct power struggle.
I'm not breaking the law.
Okay.
Now, you can do your investigation, but I'm not going to aid you in it. Period.
Okay.
Thank you.
Well, you do understand that because you're here, I have no idea who you are and why you're here.
You don't need to.
I have the right to detain you.
I'm on private property. Well, detained is the same as arrested, so what am I arrested for?
It's not the same. Detained just means you can't leave.
Basically,
nope.
It is.
You don't go in handcuffs and you're detained.
What am I detained for? What crime?
Because you're refusing to cooperate with me right now. And you
I don't have to. I don't have to communicate with you. I don't have to cooperate with you.
Man, just tell me what you're doing here.
That's all this is about. It's none of your business.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, then let me see your driver's license.
For what cause?
Because I don't.
Because you don't. I don't answer your questions.
Because I have a reason.
So you want my driver's license?
I have a reason to believe that you are here. You're not supposed to be here.
What?
That is what's called reasonable suspicion.
What's the reason?
Because
I'm in a parking lot.
Yes.
So
and you are normally not
here. You can go
here.
into any private parking lot and harass people.
That's not what I'm doing.
That's exactly what you're doing.
Those are your words,
and
not
you're
mine.
Pouting because you're not getting your way.
I'm not pouting.
So you're going for my ID like a pussy.
I have a right to ask for anyone's ID I come in contact with.
You can ask anything.
Okay. Can you step out of the car for me?
For what?
You're not going to be placed in handcuffs, but you are being detained.
For what?
I would feel more comfortable if you stepped out of the car. Okay?
For what?
Step out of the car.
You're not going to arrest me, so
I'm
why
not
do
going to arrest you.
Out of the car?
I need you to get out of the car.
For what reason?
So we can have a conversation.
Please get your supervisor.
We need to have a conversation.
We need to talk to your supervisor.
And we can make that happen.
Get your supervisor. Please call your supervisor.
I will do that once you hand me your ID. I'll make that deal with you.
Please call your supervisor.
Ma'am, I need to know who you are.
Please call your supervisor.
Is this person here related with you? Why are you being so difficult with me?
It's not difficult. I'm not obligated to do your investigation.
Backup arrives on scene, changing the dynamic of the encounter. Officer Leonard explains the situation, portraying Reba as uncooperative and difficult. Meanwhile, Reba's brother appears and confirms legitimate access to the property, weakening the officer's suspicion. Despite this, the officer continues to insist on obtaining her identification. The situation shifts from investigation to control as pressure builds in the officer's attempt to assert authority over compliance.
I'm just trying to have a conversation with her, okay?
I can't help it.
Look, let me just tell you why we're here. This is my area, okay? There's usually not a car parked here, and I just wanted to speak with her and figure out what she was here, why she's here. That's all it's about. Okay. And she's refusing to answer my questions.
I'm here every night, midnight at 1 o'clock.
Okay, do you clean the building?
No, I'm here to pick this shit up and this right here and carry it to Nashville.
Okay.
Every night. Been doing this for 5 years.
Okay. Do you guys look? I have no reason to believe that you're not telling me the truth. Okay. All I need.
I promise you, I just unlocked that door with this key.
You have a key for the building?
Yeah.
Perfect.
I just went in and got my.
Okay.
This is my job.
Okay. And
Some
again,
people have a job.
thank you. I believe you. I do too. Now, understand from my point of view, just being the zone officer, I'm here all the time. I normally don't see a car parked here. It was just a little bit weird. That's called what we call reasonable suspicion in my job. Okay. When I have that, I have the right to talk to people, ask a couple questions, figure out what's going on, and as long as everything checks out, we all go on our way. That's all this is.
We don't have to answer a single
You
question
do.
that you
You are
ask.
wrong.
No, we don't have to answer your questions.
You do.
No.
As a police officer, I have that authority.
You can ask me anything you want, but I'm not obliged to tell you anything.
Okay. Do you have your ID on you? Can I please have it? Okay. Sir, do you know who she is? Is she with you?
Yes, she's my sister.
Please do
Okay.
not.
I'm going to hang on to this until I get hers. So the sooner she gives me her ID, the sooner we can all be on our way.
I ain't done nothing.
What's your suspicion now? So he's explained everything to you, so what are your suspicions about me?
As a police officer, when I'm on a call and I have reasonable suspicion, I have the right to ID everyone I'm talking to.
I don't have to ID
Let me explain everything and stop interrupting me.
Unless you charge me with a separate crime, you cannot get me for failure to ID because it's none of your business.
The longer you interrupt me, the longer we're going to be here. All right?
Don't talk to me like I'm a child.
Well, then don't act like one.
I'm not.
Here we go. Again, ready? I have his ID. Because I have reasonable suspicion to talk to you, I need your ID. The sooner you give it to me, the sooner we can all be on our way. That's all this is.
Call your supervisor.
Okay, give me your ID and I will.
Can you call your supervisor, please? What's your name, badge number? Employee
This is
number?
Officer Moss. He's
I'm
training.
asking him.
He is training.
Thank you.
Officer Moss, 40111.
Thank you.
Are you
Can
guys
you
sovereign
please call-
citizens?
Now the encounter turns into a legal debate. Officer Leonard claims department policy allows him to demand identification from anyone he contacts. Reba immediately challenges this, stating that she only has to identify herself if she is suspected of a crime or lawfully detained. The officer insists policy gives him authority, while Reba distinguishes between law and internal rules. The disagreement becomes sharper, revealing a clear conflict between constitutional rights and misunderstanding of police procedure.
Required to identify herself later in this episode. But as we have discussed many times before here on ATA, the Supreme Court held in the 1968 case of Terry versus Ohio that the Fourth Amendment prohibits a police officer from detaining an individual without reasonable suspicion to believe that they are involved in criminal activity. Under Section 39-14-405 of the Tennessee Code, a person commits criminal trespass if the person enters or remains on property without the consent of the owner. Here, Officer Leonard had no evidence that Reba and her brother were there without the consent of the owner, besides the fact that he personally did not recognize the vehicle. In the 2009 case of United States versus C, the Sixth Circuit Court of Appeals, which has jurisdiction over Tennessee, held that an officer lacked reasonable suspicion to detain the occupants of a car that was parked in a public housing parking lot at 4:30 a.m. based on the early hour of the morning, the high crime area, and a request that the officer be on the lookout for loiterers when the officer was not responding to a complaint and did not observe the vehicle's occupants acting suspiciously. Citing this case, the Court of Criminal Appeals of Tennessee concluded in the 2021 case of State versus Brown that the mere presence of a non-tenant in a parking lot adjacent to an apartment building did not give rise to reasonable suspicion of trespassing. Applying this precedent, a court would likely find that Officer Leonard's observation of an unfamiliar vehicle in a private parking lot was insufficient to justify detaining Reba, absent additional evidence of trespass or other criminal activity.
17, Charles. Can you start me with one more car? 28 Tennessee Tag Boyd, Nora Queen, 7683. Tell me who that comes back to. Sir, look, I'm being reasonable here. I'm not trying to get anybody hemmed up for anything. I just need to get her ID. That's all it is. That's all it is. You've been cooperative. I appreciate that. Coach who's fine. He's got a lady who's maybe a sovereign citizen over here.
What's your definition of a sovereign citizen?
Sovereign citizen is someone who just doesn't cooperate with police. They don't think they have to. They think rules and laws don't apply to them.
They do. I don't know why you think I'm a sovereign cit.
Okay, look. Can you give me your ID?
No.
Why not?
It's none of your business.
It is my business.
It's an overreach.
It's not an overreach.
when you don't have any suspicion that I've committed a crime. This has become 100%.
The officer escalates further, informing Reba that she is being detained and suggesting she could be arrested for resisting. Reba immediately challenges this, repeatedly asking what crime she is being accused of. The officer struggles to establish clear probable cause but continues pressing for identification. Frustration rises on both sides as Reba demands a supervisor, refusing to comply without proper legal justification. The situation reaches peak tension as detention is used without clear grounds.
Intact. However, the Supreme Court held in the 1979 case of Brown versus Texas that, similar to the requirement for a Terry stop, officers cannot require an individual to identify themselves without reasonable suspicion to believe that they're engaged in criminal conduct, and the policies contained in the Metropolitan Nashville Police Department manual comply with this constitutional standard. However, even when an officer authorizes officers to demand identification under threat of arrest or has reasonable suspicion, the policy does not authorize. Rather, it states that the identity of the individual, quote, is likely to be useful in the intelligence gathering process. Additionally, policy 18.80.040 notes that the subject of a field interview often will not furnish all of the information necessary to complete the entire report and encourages officers to submit incomplete reports with pertinent information. These provisions confirm that, contrary to Officer Leonard's assertions, MNPD policy does not authorize officers to demand identification from individuals stopped on reasonable suspicion of a crime, let alone every person that they come into contact with.
Ma'am, you do understand that if you refuse to ID yourself, I have to take you to jail.
If you want to arrest me for a separate crime, you can arrest me that as a secondary charge. But it's not a charge in itself.
There's no charge initially. We're just having an encounter with you just to see what's going on. And if you would just give me your ID, I could ID you and get you out of here. Not yet, because you haven't given me your ID.
I have asked over and over for a supervisor.
You've asked me twice.
That's what they're for.
You've asked me twice.
I asked you too. Will you call a supervisor?
We'll call one in just a minute, okay?
We'll call one in just a second.
We're gonna get.
Job to do regardless.
And the longer she doesn't give me her ID, the longer you're not going to do your job.
I'm going to go do my job. That's my
Let me run your ID, okay? We're going to, while we do this, we're going to TLO her. We'll find her that way. He's got no TBI, he's got no outstanding warrant, so as far as I'm concerned, he's free to leave. I'm just going to have him verify, because he said he was inside the building, so. Hey, dude. So, we were just making rounds, this area, you know, whatever. Yep. We're making a round across the street, 800 Royal.
Yep.
I see this Jeep parked as it is. I'm just like, oh, that's weird.
Yeah.
I don't usually see a Jeep parked here.
Yeah.
I initiated 40 Paul Victor, go make contact with her. She's like, I don't have to answer your questions. I'm like, okay.
Detained right now.
So I told her she's detained. While we're talking to her, this gentleman comes out the door, gives me his ID. She's telling me she doesn't have to give me her ID, that she doesn't have to cooperate with my investigation. And I'm telling her the sooner she gives me her ID, the sooner I can let her cut her loose and get her out of here. She's just refusing. Yeah. So she's demanding a supervisor. So.
Okay.
Yes.
Yes, ma'am. Okay.
So that's all it is.
Is it her car?
No. I think it's his. Hey, Todd, is this your car? It is? Okay. You want to try talking to her? I'm going to talk to him.
Okay.
Hey, Todd, real quick. So you said you were inside the building. I believe you.
Can you just tell me?
No, I'm not. They gave you an update.
What's going on?
He updated you.
I'm just trying to get you.
What's your name and
Officer Malone, badge number 409192.
I couldn't understand the name.
Officer Malone,
Malone.
409192.
Thank you.
Can you just tell me what's going on? I
don't need to do anything. I'm ready to leave here. I'm detained for nothing. So
okay.
I don't have anything to say. I don't need anything. You're not the supervisor, right?
I'm not a supervisor.
So I don't need to repeat it all for you. That's a waste of my time and yours.
Okay, well, I mean, the sooner we can be able to identify you, the sooner we can catch you loose.
So y'all are going to punish me and keep me detained because you're not getting your way.
It's not a punishment.
Yeah, it is.
You're being detained and we have a legal right
for
to...
what? What's your reasonable articulate suspicion that I've committed a crime?
Trespassing.
Trespassing?
Yes, ma'am.
How are you getting that? He's explained he works here. He's explained he worked here.
Oh, you gonna talk over me?
Yeah, I'll talk nothing to you either.
Okay. Well, right.
You're just as foolish. I'm not talking to you at all. How about that? I'm not listening as they are.
You guys out of here.
My name is my partner doing this interview, man.
She ain't gonna come up. I'll come up.
Okay, well, I need to get her ID.
I'm not, you're in the rough.
A supervisor is eventually requested while the officers continue trying to resolve the situation. During this time, Reba is identified through database checks, and it is confirmed she has no warrants or criminal history. With no legal issues found, the justification for continued detention begins to collapse. The supervisor ultimately instructs that she is free to leave, ending the stop after prolonged confrontation and repeated demands for identification.
Crime.
That's not true.
It is
You're being detained for a crime.
You're being detained for reasonable
I'm
suspicion,
detained.
which means you
Ta-da.
do have to give me your ID.
Ta-da. No, I don't.
Yes, it does.
No, RISE doesn't work in Tennessee.
Okay, well then you can be charged with
No.
resisting a stop.
No, I haven't resisted any stop.
You're resisting right now.
You're on
Wishes.
Reba argues that under Tennessee law,
I'm
video
resisting
being...
your wants and
officers cannot demand identification during a Terry stop based on reasonable suspicion, and that she only needs to identify herself if she is arrested for a separate crime. But the officers contend that she can be arrested for quote-unquote resisting a stop if she refuses to identify herself. Now, while Section 7-3-505 of the Tennessee Code requires citizens to identify themselves when an officer, so-called stop and identify statute requiring detainees is issuing a citation or civil warrant, Tennessee has no give their name during a Terry stop based on reasonable suspicion. It should be noted that Section 39-6 citing false identifying information to an officer during 16-611 of the Tennessee Code does criminalize the act of providing a detention. But this statute does not make it an offense for a citizen to decline to identify themselves, and it did not go into effect until July 1st, 2025, several years after this interaction occurred. Now, as for the officer's argument that Reba could be arrested for resisting a stop of the Tennessee Code makes it an offense to intentionally prevent or obstruct. Section 39-16-602 stop, frisk, halt, arrest, or search by using force to obstruct a law enforcement officer from effecting a source, meaning that passive non-compliance, including refusing to answer questions or provide one's name, does not constitute resistance under the statute. And although Section 11.04 uses broader language, simply prohibiting resisting, 4.020 of the Nashville and Davidson County Municipal Code interfering with or hindering a police officer in the discharge of their duties. As we discussed earlier in this episode, such an ordinance could not constitutionally be applied to an individual's refusal to identify themselves when an officer does not have reasonable suspicion that the individual is involved in criminal activity. Accordingly, it is unlikely that a court would conclude that Reba could lawfully be arrested for her refusal to identify herself.
I'm going by the law.
We're sitting in the parking lot where nobody else is, okay?
Exactly, and I've explained this to you both.
Right.
Normally,
so
I don't see your car here.
When you know what
if you give me your ID and I can get you ID, we'll be out of here. Nope, I have to do this. I have to do this.
Your ego.
Okay.
It's not an ego thing. It's a protocol.
It isn't.
It is.
No, it's your protocol to ask for it, but that doesn't mean I have to give it to you.
Yes, it does.
No.
Yes, it does.
Call your supervisor.
And he's
Either
gonna
arrest
tell you the same
me for a
thing.
separate crime. Do what you need to do.
So we need to give
You
him a reason.
already know. We've been talking this to death.
And you want him here because why? You don't think you have the, you don't think you
Because
can give me
you're
your
full
ID?
of So we
Okay.
need somebody better than you in charge.
Okay.
That's what they're there for.
Okay. I'll get my supervisor en route.
Thank you.
And he'll tell you the same thing I did.
Officer Leonard finally requests his supervisor, and while he is waiting for him to respond, he identifies Reba through his computer systems by searching her brother's associates. He confirms that Reba does not have any open warrants, and then calls his supervisor again, who advises Officer Leonard to tell Reba that she is free to leave.
So we've got her ID'd. Call Sarge back.
For no reason.
Yeah, but she's still refusing to give me her ID, which is still a chargeable offense. Hey, real quick, I've got her ID'd. I found her through TLO. She's got nothing in her history. She's just being, it looks like she's just being difficult to be difficult. So I'm going to explain that I've got her ID'd, and now that I know why they're here, like, they're both free to leave since I got her ID'd, but I mean, I don't know if you still, if I do that and she still wants to talk to you, do you still want to respond, or?
Yeah, you can just tell her that she's free to leave. And I wouldn't even go into it if you've got her ID. You know who she is now.
Yeah.
So I would just tell her that she's free to leave.
All right. Bye. All right, ma'am. Both free to leave.
Can you apologize?
I have no reason to apologize.
Can you admit you were wrong?
I wasn't wrong, ma'am. I need you.
After the incident, Reba files a formal complaint against Officer Leonard. An internal investigation finds that the officer violated departmental policy and lacked proper legal understanding. He is suspended without pay for deficient performance and failure to follow correct legal standards. The analysis highlights key issues: lack of reasonable suspicion, misuse of authority, and misunderstanding of constitutional rights. The encounter ends as a clear example of how legal ignorance and escalation can turn a routine stop into an unlawful detention.
To it.
Okay.
You choose which one looks
You can
best
believe
to
whatever you want to believe. That's fine.
Yeah.
I'm not.
You.
Following this encounter,
I can tell you otherwise.
Bye, everybody.
But you and Todd are free to leave.
Thank you.
Reba filed a complaint against Officer Leonard. An internal investigation was conducted, and Officer Leonard was suspended for 5 days without pay after 2 charges were sustained. The offensive duties in violation of Policy 4.20.0. First sustained charge was deficient or inefficient performance 50F of the Metropolitan Nashville Police Department Manual, which requires a documented pattern of deficient or inefficient performance, or a significant occurrence warrant disciplinary action. Additionally, a violation of that has not been previously addressed or documented to this policy mandates that officers remain knowledgeable on all. Policy 5.110, requiring quote-unquote knowledge of law, was sustained, as this all matters that pertain to criminal process. Reba filmed and receiving the results and then shared them on her YouTube channel. Her police calls while filing the complaint, and if you're interested in learning more, I've linked the videos in the description down below. Overall, Officer Leonard gets an F for demonstrating fundamental misunderstandings regarding both constitutional and state law, for maintaining a hostile and confrontational demeanor throughout the encounter, and for continuing to detain Reba and Todd long after his encounter with nothing more than the observation that a vehicle that he did not recognize suspicion had been clearly dispelled. Officer Leonard began this recognize was parked in a private lot that he routinely patrols, and he treated that simple fact as if it were a concrete indicator of criminal activity. As discussed, the mere presence of an unfamiliar vehicle in a parking lot as reasonable suspicion of trespassing or any other offense. Discussed earlier in this episode, neither Tennessee law nor controlling precedent treats, particularly when the officer has not observed any suspicious behavior and has received no complaint from the property owner. By immediately framing the contact as a detention and insisting that Reba was not free to refuse his questions, a seizure that lacked any legitimate legal foundation. Once Officer Leonard converted what should have been a consensual conversation into Reba declined to answer his questions, Officer Leonard's misunderstanding of the law became blindingly apparent. He repeatedly claimed that it was departmental policy to identify everyone that officers contact, and asserted that Reba was quote-unquote obligated to talk to him and provide identification simply because he had decided to initiate an investigation. As discussed earlier, MNPD's own field interview policies recognize that individuals are free to refuse to answer questions, to walk away, and to withhold identifying information when there is no reasonable suspicion of criminal activity, and they explicitly acknowledge that officers may need to submit incomplete reports in those situations. Officer Leonard went on to state that Reba could be arrested for resisting or obstructing his investigation if she refused to provide her name, even though Tennessee's resisting statute requires the use of force to interfere with an officer's efforts to effect a stop or arrest, and passive noncompliance does not satisfy that requirement. The broader municipal ordinance that he referenced cannot constitutionally be applied to punish a citizen for declining to identify themselves when an officer lacks reasonable suspicion, and treating it as a catch-all for non-cooperation ignores the basic distinction between lawful authority and personal preference. Even after Todd emerged from the building, produced a key card, demonstrated that he had legitimate access to the property, and provided identification that returned clean, Officer Leonard continued to detain both of them for the sole purpose of obtaining Reba's name. While waiting for a supervisor, he used database tools to identify her through her association with Todd, and confirmed that she had no warrants and no history that would justify further concern. Despite that, he still told his sergeant that her refusal to identify remained quote-unquote a chargeable offense, and continued to talk about her as if she posed a meaningful threat. His repeated references to her as a quote-unquote sovereign citizen, both on scene and to other officers, made it clear that he viewed her legal knowledge and insistence on her rights as defiance rather than as a legitimate constraint on his power, and that his persistence was driven more by a bruised ego than any legitimate investigative need. This interaction highlights how quickly a lack of legal knowledge and unchecked ego can turn a routine patrol check into an unlawful detention, and why officers must understand that a citizen's refusal to waive their rights is a limit on police power, not a crime to be punished. Reba gets an A+ for demonstrating a strong understanding of both her constitutional rights and the relevant state laws, remaining calm but stern when invoking her rights, and for following up this interaction with a proper avenue of complaint. Throughout this encounter, Reba showed a level of legal awareness and composure that the vast majority of citizens simply do not possess. From the moment that Officer Leonard approached her vehicle, she made it clear that she understood that she was not required to answer questions when she was not suspected of a crime, and she exercised that right without raising her voice or attempting to flee. She stated her position plainly, repeated it when pressed, and refused to be drawn into a narrative where silence or non-cooperation was treated as evidence of wrongdoing. Her insistence that she was not obligated to assist in the officer's investigation was factually accurate under Tennessee law and MNPD policy, and she did not allow herself to be bullied out of that position simply because a uniformed officer claimed otherwise. Even when the officer blatantly labeled her a quote-unquote sovereign citizen and spoke down to her, she stayed focused on the law rather than trading personal shots. Her comments about ego and overreach may have been blunt, but they stayed within the bounds of protected speech, and they never crossed into threats or physical interference. What sets Reba apart even more is what she did after the stop ended. She filed a formal complaint, documented every step of that process, and published both the interaction and the aftermath on her channel. The internal investigation that followed led to a sustained finding that Officer Leonard had performed his duties in a deficient manner and lacked the required knowledge of the law, resulting in a suspension without pay. That outcome did not happen by accident. It happened because Reba understood the complaint process, she used it properly, and she created a public record that made it difficult for the department to ignore what had occurred. By doing so, she not only vindicated her own rights, but she also helped to clarify the law for viewers who may find themselves in similar situations. I commend Reba for standing firm on her rights in the moment, and for reinforcing that stance afterward by pursuing accountability through the complaint process and using her platform to educate others about the legal limits of police authority. I highly encourage you to give Reba's channel your support. You can find a link in the description down below.